Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3701A, and today's date is August 4th, 2025, and the title of the episode is BLS Calculations Manipulated, Trump Ready to Return the Stolen Wealth Back to the People. You know what's interesting? I think everyone needs to hear this. If you're getting close to retirement or just thinking ahead, you've probably done a solid job of saving. But here's something most people don't consider. How much of that money is just sitting in cash? It might feel safe, but holding too much cash guarantees one thing. You're losing purchasing power. Inflation eats away at it, and the dollar's value keeps slipping. That's why more people are looking at real assets like physical gold and silver to protect their savings. And one of the companies making it easy? Noble Gold Investments. You can buy gold or silver, coins or bars, and have them shipped to your home or stored securely. It's a smart way to convert cash into something that actually holds value. Noble Gold is fair, transparent, and they don't pressure you. Just solid information and real options. Visit x22gold.com. That is x22gold.com. Go today to x22gold.com. When you own real assets, you have real wealth. Or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private wealth central bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see that everything that they've been doing in the past, where they've been manipulating the BLS calculations, and not just BLS, but GDP, inflation, you name it, because basically they have to manipulate the calculations in order to explain what is happening in the economy. Because if they kept the original calculations back in 1970 and they continually used it, people would see that the entire economic system has been breaking down for a very long time. And Trump has been calling out the manipulated numbers, and now he has fired that individual. And of course, the fake news, the D's, the central bankers, they're all getting very angry. They're panicking over this. And you have to ask the question, why are they so panicked about this? Because again, they don't want anyone to see that the economy is improving. Remember, this individual is a Biden appointee. This individual has been manipulating the calculations. They manipulate the calculations to help the D's, to help the central bank. And they don't want to show that the economy is improving right now, because if people started to realize the economy is improving, well, that means everything that Trump is doing is working. And think about what they did going all the way back to the 2024 election. They manipulated the calculations back then to do what? To help who? The D's, the central bank. Cut the rates. To help who? Oh, that's right, the D's. To help the criminal syndicate. And now that Trump is creating the parallel economy, and it's building very, very rapidly, because now he's even mentioning that, listen, I'm going to give back some of this stolen wealth because we are getting so much money that we're at a point where I can start giving the stolen wealth back to the people, and that will actually increase their buying power and help people get through this period of time. Now, this is just the beginning, because again, remember, the bills went out for additional tariffs. More money is going to be coming in, which means the system's going to build and build and build. And wait until Trump actually has the actual numbers. People are going to see that people are getting jobs. They're going to see inflation is way, way down. They're going to see a very, very different picture. Now, of course, the D's, the central bankers are all going to say it's fake. And then you're going to have the economists come out and say, you know something? No, these are the correct numbers. There's no revisions. There's no manipulation. And yeah, the economy is improving every step of the way here. And this is going to help Trump in the end. Because think about where all this is headed. We're headed in the direction of removing the central bank, removing the income tax, removing IRS, removing everything that they put into place to keep America back, to actually strangle the American people so they couldn't get ahead. And when you look at the majority of the people in this country, most of them are having a very, very difficult time. They're struggling. They can't make a very nice income. A lot of people have to live on credit cards. And if you took credit cards away today from majority of people, most of the people, they'd be in the poorhouse. They wouldn't be able to survive. Because what credit cards do, it allows you to charge the things you need to have, and then you can actually make the small little payments to survive. That's how they trick the population. But now it's completely and utterly unraveling right in front of their face. And now the people are starting to realize that, you know something? I think I like this new economy that's being built. Remember, the deep state players, the central bankers, the World Economic Forum, they wanted you to basically not get married. They didn't want you to have children. They didn't want you to own any type of property. In the end, they wanted to make sure that you were under their complete control, which means that if you had to make payments for everything, payment for your phone, which a lot of people are doing, payment for your home, payment for your car, payment for any other product, basically, you're never really owning any type of property. And they don't want anyone to own their property. This is why they want everyone to rent. This is why they want payments. This is because this way they could shut you off at any moment. And when you look at home ownership, you can see over the last 30 years, or even longer than that, you can see that home ownership has declined. If you go back to 1950, and then Woke just put this out, those people that were married and they had a home by 30 years old was around 50% in the 50s. The 60s, it went to 52%. And this is where everything started to fall apart in the 70s. Isn't that strange? We came off the gold standard and we went to full fiat. That was at 48%. 80s, 45%. 90s, 43%. 2000, 35%. 2010, 25%. 2025, 12%. Now, there's many different factors that go into this, but you could see that, yes, inflation is a very big part. Wages not keeping up with inflation is a very big part. And people being brainwashed into thinking that you don't want to own a home, you don't want to have a family, you don't want any of these things. And now we could see that Trump is about to turn all of this around. And I do believe that the people are absolutely ready for this. Because remember, when you have to struggle to earn your money and you have to get 1, 2, 3 jobs and you're barely making ends meet, people get angry, people get pissed off, and people, sometimes they give up. And I think this is exactly what the Federal Reserve System does to the people, not just in this country, but around the world, because all the other countries have a central bank too. And it keeps the people down. Yes, there are people that do well, but when you look at the majority of the people are just getting by. And it's getting harder and harder with each generation. And we could see at this point in time, the D's, the fake news, they're trying to make it seem like everything that Trump is doing is making everything more expensive. Actually, the opposite is happening. And actually, they're losing the narrative over this. Actually, during Biden's time, and remember, I do believe that Trump has been bringing us out of Biden's recession. Remember, what they do, and I'm talking about the government, what they do is they go back in time and they say, listen, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but the recession started back in early 2024, late 2023. See, just like in 2008, everyone thought, oh, look, we're in a recession. It's 2009. This is a bad recession. But the recession actually really started in 2007. They didn't tell you that part. You see, the same thing's happening right now. Trump is pulling us out of this recession. And the D's, the central bankers, the fake news, they don't want you to know this. And you could see that, like Elizabeth Warren and the rest, they're trying to convince everyone that everything is going up, but it's not. Trump responded to her and said, in just 6 months, I cut costs, especially energy and taxes, tremendously. Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren on CNBC said costs have gone up. She is just angry that I blew up her terrible presidential campaign. Call her out. Absolutely. And we could see that the BLS numbers, they've been manipulated. They're not reliable, actually. White House economic advisor Hassett says data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics has become very unreliable. Now, we could see the D's, they're panicking over this. And we have Senator Alex Padilla. Remember the guy that staged this whole entire event when Kristi Noem was giving a press conference, and he came in there, he didn't flash his badge, and he said, oh, people were just rushing him up. But you could see that he's one of those people, and he's trying to convince everyone right now that Trump is going to weaponize the BLS. It's already weaponized. There's nothing to weaponize. Actually, Trump is just going to use math now. He's going to have someone come in and say, listen, we just want straight math. Just give us the real numbers. You know what's interesting? I think everyone needs to hear this. If you're getting close to retirement or just thinking ahead, you've probably done a solid job of saving. But here's something most people don't consider. How much of that money is just sitting in cash? It might feel safe, but holding too much cash guarantees one thing. You're losing purchasing power. Inflation eats away at it, and the dollar's value keeps slipping. That's why more people are looking at real assets like physical gold and silver to protect their savings. And one of the companies making it easy? Noble Gold Investments. You can buy gold or silver, coins or bars, and have them shipped shipped to your home or stored securely. It's a smart way to convert cash into something that actually holds value. Noble Gold is fair, transparent, and they don't pressure you. Just solid information and real options. Visit x22gold.com. That is x22gold.com. Go today to x22gold.com. When you own real assets, you have real wealth. Or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. We don't want manipulation. So basically what these people do is they project what's already happening. The entire BLS, all the calculations, everything that's been going on has already been weaponized against the people. Trump is now going to show the people the truth. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following: last week's jobs report was rigged, just like the numbers prior to the presidential election were rigged. That's why in both cases there was massive record-setting revisions in favor of the radical left Democrats. Those big adjustments were made to cover up and level out the fake political numbers that were concocted in order to make a great Republican success look less stellar. I will pick an exceptional replacement. Thank you for your attention to this matter. MAGA. And when you really look at it, you could see that, yes, something is very, very off. When you look at the calculations, there are 25 significant downward revisions in the last 31 months, and every month since Trump was inaugurated. Something is wrong. And now writer Don Serber has discovered a doozy of BLS internal report from 2024, and the agency, they've been mismanaging the data up the wazoo. Now, what's very interesting is that the BLS commissioner, Erica McIntarfer, she promised that she was going to revamp everything. She didn't do any of these things. And basically, Trump doesn't object to the data itself. Basically, how they actually use the data. Well, which means they manipulate the data. So basically, what he objects to is the constant revisions of the data. Big, unprecedented revisions released at political sensitive times. Always good for the Democrats and always bad for the Republicans. The report was commissioned after several incidents around data releases raised questions about how some of the world's most sensitive economic information gets disseminated. In August, the BLS provided at least 3 Wall Street firms the highly anticipated figures on revisions to U.S. payrolls, all while the official release was delayed on his website. The episode not only sparked outrage among investors, but also on Capitol Hill, where key Senate Republicans charged the BLS with its continued failures in producing crucial economic data and demanded answers to questions around its data release protocols. Other incidences earlier in the year raised similar questions. In May, the BLS inadvertently published inflation data a half hour before the scheduled release time. And separately, a BLS economist disclosed internal data to an exclusive group of analysts he described as super users. BLS claimed innocent human error, like a glitch. It's always a glitch around these releases of data to insiders first instead of everyone else. But nobody believes that. Billions of dollars of traders are on the line, and equal access to data is ingrained in every player, government and traders alike, ever since the dawn of Wall Street. Any uneven release of data is insider trading, and release of data to privileged cronies over others is politicization of data, which is where Trump had the problem. The woman promised to reform her data mishandling, which stretches way back, and she went right back to business as usual, manipulating the data for political purposes in a variety of ways. And we could see that, once again, this is what Trump is saying. It's all politicized. They're manipulating the data to say, okay, look, the job numbers are up. Let's revise the numbers down so they don't look that great. Actually, economic powerhouse Alan Reynolds found these problems too. He put this out. Aside from the notoriously lagged and mismeasured rent and BLS made-up figures for owners' equivalent rent, inflation was generally negligible or negative since July 2022, even as habitual Fed hawks and vultures such as Larry Summers kept warning repeatedly that it was about to come roaring back, which it did not. So, yes, they've been manipulating the numbers. They don't want people to understand that the economy is getting better. They manipulated the numbers during the 2024 election to help the Ds. And if you go back in time, you can see they manipulate the numbers to make the economy look a lot better than it really is, even though the economy might be in a recession. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following: The head of Bureau of Labor Statistics did the same thing just before the presidential election when she lifted the numbers for jobs to an all-time high. I then won the election anyway, and she readjusted the numbers downward, calling it a mistake of almost 1 million jobs, a scam. She did it again with another massive correction and got fired. She had the biggest miscalculations in over 50 years. And this is what they do. This is how the manipulation is done to convince people that something's happening when it really isn't. And now we're going to get the truth of the matter, which is going to be absolutely incredible. And you can see that Trump, he is keeping the pressure on many, many different countries. And one of them is India right now, because India now is buying massive amounts of Russian oil. And Trump says, listen, I'm going to hit you with a very big tariff if you continue this. Stephen Miller is out there saying because of what India is doing, India is now assisting in the Ukraine war. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following: India is not only buying massive amounts of Russian oil, they are then, for much of the oil purchase, selling it on the open market for big profits. They don't care how many people in Ukraine are being killed by the Russian war machine. Because of this, I will be substantially raising the tariff paid by India to the USA. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. And yes, India is buying Russia's oil. And once again, Trump now is putting pressure on all these different countries using tariffs. And this is a very powerful way of bringing these countries into an alignment. But I do believe Trump is using this because, again, he's keeping the optics very, very good in regards to Ukraine and Russia, because he doesn't want people to believe that he's on Russia's side. Because, again, if, as the Russia collusion hoax and all that stuff comes out, he's the middleman. And he's going against Putin. He's also against Zelensky. He's not on anyone's side or anything like that. So they can't hold that against him. And by placing tariffs on India, that assists him with his narrative. Now, Trump, with all the tariffs and everything else, and this is not including the gold card, it's not including the energy sales, it's not including any of that. He is now just ramping up the tariffs, and there's a lot of money now coming into this country. And like we said, going back quite a bit, as more and more money comes into this country, Trump, I do believe, is going to be able to actually do certain things to help the people out of this country. Now, can he get rid of income tax altogether right now? No, I don't think we're at that point. I do believe every step of the way, when he reaches a certain marker, he'll be removing or giving back. This way, he can show the people that it's working. We know we're coming up to the midterms. And eventually, as the system generates more and more income, he'll be able to remove a lot of the taxes. And I do believe he'll probably do this via income. So each one will be a gauge. He'll say, okay, now is the time to remove the income tax for maybe those people making $100,000 or less. Now it's time to remove the income tax for making those people making $150,000 less. If you notice, he started out by removing the tax on tips, tax on overtime, and all that. Remember, he can't do it all at once. The whole system would collapse because, again, the government is dependent on we, the people. They're dependent on the tax receipts because we owe interest on the debt. This is why Trump wants the Fed to lower the rate, because think about it. If the Fed lowered the rate by 2-3 points, how much more money would the new system have? Would he be able to reduce the income tax for certain individuals? Probably. But at this point in time, he's unable to do that because a lot of this money has to go to help pay for what's going on right now. And you can see what the Fed is trying to do, the deep state players. They're trying to make and force Trump to use the money that's coming in to pay for this exorbitant amount of interest on the debt. And they're hoping that he's going to use that money so this way there's no money left in the coffers to reduce taxes or get rid of the taxes. But I think in the end, the deep state players are going to lose out. And Trump, instead of removing taxes right now, because it's not the time, he said, you know something? Why don't we do some type of tariff revenue funded rebate for the lower income earners? So those people that making middle or low income, they're going to get a little bit of relief because now Trump is saying, listen, we could take some of this that's coming in. Yes, the debt's very important. Yes, we're going to pay off the debt. Yes, we're going to use the gold card, energy sales. And actually, I do believe as we review the Fed, we're going to learn that most of this debt is not what we owe. But right now, Trump is going to be using the tariff money to give back to those people in the lower middle income bracket. Now, remember, the deep state, the central bankers, when they came into existence, when the central bank came into existence, what did they do? They went to the wealthy and they said, listen, the wealthy is going to pay the taxes. You don't have to worry, upper middle class, lower middle class, poor. You're not going to have to worry. It's all going to be the rich. And what happened over time? Slowly but surely, it went to pretty much everybody. Trump is now working in reverse. He's now saying the poor, lower middle income people, you're going to get rebates. Eventually, they're going to have no taxes. This is going to build the economy very, very quickly because remember, these individuals, they support the economic system. And there's a lot of people in this class right now. So I do believe Trump is working in reverse. These people are going to be on his side. If you want more of this and you want your income tax to be gone completely, well, we need to change Congress because, again, we need to get rid of the Federal Reserve. We need to revamp our entire economic system. We need to put the parallel economic system in place. And we need to take control of the interest rate right now because we're just paying way too much interest on the debt. So I do believe Trump is doing this, and it's a very strategic move because we are coming up to the midterms. The midterms are very, very important. And as Trump brings in more and more revenue via tariffs, add on energy sales, add on AI technology, add on gold card, we're going to see he's going to expand this. He's already starting to do this, which means this is going to help those people in the lower income bracket. And it's going to give them their buying power back. It's going to give their wealth back to them. Now, is this all their wealth? Absolutely not. Slowly but surely, we're going to see a return of our buying power, the return of our wealth, and Trump is going to shut off the Federal Reserve, shut off the IRS from stealing our hard-earned money. And eventually what's going to happen, I do believe the people of this country will be able to keep their hard-earned money because this is the way the Founding Fathers wanted it from the very, very beginning. They never wanted an internal revenue service. They never wanted people to work and the government to take 25, 30, 37% of your income. That's not even including the state taxes if you live in a state with state taxes and even states that have city taxes. They never wanted anything like this. They wanted the people of this country to actually own their property outright. They didn't want people to continually pay taxes on their property. I mean, think about it. It doesn't even make sense. Can you imagine buying a product? Let's just say you bought a TV. You bought a TV, and every year you got to pay a tax on it. What would people say? This is outrageous. I'm paying a tax on a TV over and over and over? This doesn't make any sense. Can you imagine if you pay taxes on every single product that you had in your home, including your home? Why do we continually pay taxes on our homes? Listen, if you miss a tax, if you have your mortgage paid off and you miss a tax payment, what happens? The government takes your home. So do you really own it? No, you really don't. Our founding fathers never wanted this. And I do believe this is all going to be changed. And I do believe we're heading in that direction. Remember, the central bankers, the deep state players, they created this illusionary system. They wanted you to believe that this is normal. This is the way it's supposed to be. It is not. This is something the founding fathers never, ever wanted. And I do believe we are going back to our roots. And people, once we go back to our roots, they're going to see an economy. They're going to see a lifestyle that they never thought would ever, ever exist. And think about it. All those people that are just starting out, the lower income, middle class, when they experience this, well, it's game over for the deep state, the central bankers, and the rest. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.